Hey everybody, it's Miss Brothers. We're going to take a look today about how to do some density problems using our density triangle. Look, it's the density triangle. We'll get to that in just a minute. All right, so let's take a look at this practice problem that we have in front of us. All right, what it's saying, I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see that just a tiny bit better. Let's see if we can see that a little better. All right, so remember you guys, density, if we're using the formula, we know that density equals mass divided by volume. Okay, so if we're trying to find the density of an object, we first need to figure out what our mass and our volumes are. So let's take a look at this problem. It says it says a block of aluminum occupies a volume of 15 milliliters and weighs, I don't like that word, we're going to say has a mass, there we go, 40.5 grams. What is its density? So we're trying to find the density, and we know that density equals mass divided by volume. Okay. So what we would do is we would set up our problem. So density equals, now this has a mass of 40.5 grams, 40.5 grams divided by, there is our volume of 15.0 milliliters. Okay, that's easy enough. All right, so now it's just a matter of doing the math in order to get that done. Let me go grab my calculator. All right, so I have my calculator, and I'm simply going to type in 40.5 grams divided by 15.0 grams, and that equals 2.7. Now remember our units, you guys. When we're dealing with density, we have units for mass and units for volume, and so that has to be reflected in our answer. So that's going to be 2.7 grams over milliliters, and that is going to be our final answer. Okay, so this is how you do a problem if you are just doing a straight up density problem. Okay, we apply the formula density equals mass divided by volume. So in our next portion, you guys, we're going to see what we can do. If we are given density and mass, then we're going to figure out how to find volume, or if we're given the volume and the density, we're going to learn how to calculate mass. Hey everybody, we're back. In the last portion of the video, we learned how to calculate density if we're given mass and volume, and that's pretty straightforward. We just take our mass, divide it by our volume, and that's going to be our density. Now, we can use the density formula, for instance, if we are given the volume and the density, but we have to find the mass. So let's take a look at this problem. We're going to look at specifically a problem, and you can see the problem says here, let's go ahead and zoom in just a tiny bit. It says to find the mass of 250 milliliters of benzene. The density of the benzene is 0.8765 grams per milliliter. All right, so in this problem, as you can see right here, we're given the volume and we are given the density, but we have to try and find the mass. That's what we're trying to find right now. Now, we can still use this formula, D equals M over V, in order to find the mass, but we have to work the formula a little bit, and we're going to do it algebraically. Look, you guys, we're using algebra. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go to what we call the density triangle. All right. Now, the way the density triangle works, you can see there's some division signs, there's a multiplication sign. We can manipulate this in order to figure out how we're going to set up our formula. All right, so for instance, you guys, when we were trying to find density, we cover up density and we have mass divided by volume, because the way we work the triangle, we always try and work down or across the triangle. Now, in this case, you guys, we're actually trying to find the mass. We have the density, we have the volume, now we have to try and find the mass. So what we're going to do is we're going to cover up everything at the top. And what's left, you guys, is density times volume. So if I don't know the mass, I have to take density times volume. Now let's go ahead and set that up on our problem. So in this case, you guys, instead of D equal M over V, we have M equals D times V. And in this case, you guys, the density is 0.8765 grams per milliliter. And we're going to multiply that times 250 milliliters of benzene. All right, and now we're just going to multiply. So my mass is going to equal, now remember something, ladies and gentlemen, if we're doing algebra, okay, our milliliters are going to cancel each other out, and the only unit that's going to be left is grams. Now let's go ahead and crunch the numbers on that. Okay, we've got 0.8765 times 250 equals, whoops, calculator just had a moment, 0.8765 times 250 equals, and so now I have this answer, you guys. I have an answer of 219.125. And so you might be thinking to yourself, well, what do I round this to? Let's go back to our problem. In this part of the problem, you guys, we have an answer to, what is that? The nearest 10th, 100th, 1000th, what, 10,000th. And over here, you guys, we have our answer to the nearest 10th. Now, we can only be as precise as our least precise answer. So our answer, you guys, is going to be to the nearest 10th. So when I put my answer down, it's going to be 219.1 grams. Because, again, my least precise answer is right there, so that's what we're going to go with. Now, when you guys start taking your chemistry and your physics classes, you're going to learn the rules of significant figures, which is going to be a little bit different. But for 8th grade science, this is as precise as we're going to go. So, again, if you want to remember how I did that, I had the density and the volume, and I needed to find the mass. I just went to my density triangle, and I covered up mass. So to find the mass, I have to take D times V. All right. Next up, we're going to learn how to find the volume if we are given the mass and the density. Hey folks, we are back one more time. We've been working with the density triangle and doing some density problems. So to start with, you guys, we found the density using our formula mass divided by volume. I'll make that a little bit easier. Then we found the mass by using density times volume, and now we're going to find the volume if we are given mass and density. So let's take a look at this problem right here. It says, what volume of silver metal will weigh, and again, a better way of saying that, we'll have a mass. What volume of silver weighs or has a mass of 2,500 grams? The density of the silver is 10.5 grams per centimeters cubed. All right. So we are given a mass and we're given a density, and now we have to try to find the volume. So let's go back to our density triangle. This is, again, our favorite little buddy right here. Now, when we were finding density, we covered up density and we took mass divided by volume. When we were trying to find mass, we covered up the mass and we used density times volume. Now we're trying to find volume. Okay? We're trying to find the volume of something. So now what we're going to do is, again, remember, folks, we work at the top of the triangle and work our way down, or we work across the triangle. In this case, we're going to start at the top and work our way down. So we're trying to find the volume. We've covered that up, and what's left is mass divided by density. Again, volume is going to be mass divided by density. So let's go back to our problem. All right, we're trying to find the volume here. So our volume equals mass divided by density. So let's set that up. Our volume, we don't know that yet. We have a mass of 2,500.0 grams, and we're going to divide that by a density of 10.5 grams per centimeters cubed. Okay. Now in this case, you guys, using our algebra, we know that we can cancel out our grams. So now it's just a matter of doing the math. So volume equals, so again, we're going to crunch our numbers in. 2,500 divided by 10.5 is, and again, I get this crazy number. But again, you guys, we have to go with the least amount of precision. The least amount of precision here is to the nearest tenth. That's also the case here, so our answer is going to be to the nearest tenth. So my answer is going to be 238 points. And if you guys will notice, I've got 0.09, so that 9 is going to cause that to be rounded up to a 1. And the only unit I have left, because I canceled out grams, is centimeters cubed. So that's going to be my answer. So my volume on this would be 238.1 centimeters cubed. And again, I got that because I manipulated my density triangle. I manipulated my density triangle like this so that I end up with mass divided by density. So finally, volume equals mass divided by density. All right, that's how you use the density triangle.